So do you guys remember back in September, Colorado Springs sports store named Primetime Sports, owned by Stephen Martin. You don't remember it at all, yeah.
Well, soon no one will remember.
I think that's the problem.
Stephen Martin, the owner of that store, took a stand against Nike. If you remember, Colin Kaepernick was partnered with Nike after being, of course, blackballed from the NFL for his kneeling and to bring more attention to police brutality and violence against black folks in America. Once that ad came out and there was all these boycotts and Nike burnings, Stephen Martin was a part of it. He said, you know what, I have my sports store that sells jerseys and lots of Nike apparel, so I'm gonna sell out everything that's left at the 40% off. I believe it was a 40% discount, 50 maybe. And I'm gonna take a stand for my principles. Well, just 5 months later, I have an update. It appears his business has taken a knee.
Oh, I didn't see that coming.
In his attempt to own the libs.
Disrespectful of them.
In his attempt to own the libs, he doesn't own a store.
Oh! He's here all week, ladies and gentlemen.
So let's go to his Facebook post, because he reached out to his clients and said, thank you for 21 mostly good years. He wrote on his Facebook, as I just mentioned, asking people who had supported him for the Nike boycott to now help me liquidate, is what his quote actually said. So then he also took the local news, KOAA News, came out and spoke with him as well. And he had this to say to them, some more obvious facts here. Being a sports store without Nike is kind of like being a milk store without milk or a gas station without gas. How do you do it? They have a monopoly on jerseys. Apparently also Primetime Sports was one of those apparels, no matter what, because he's in Colorado Springs, he had every team's jerseys. Oh, that's awesome. That's a good place to come. A nice shop to make it happen. At one point also in 2016, Brandon Marshall, also an NFL wide receiver, in 2016 he kneeled, and there was apparently supposed to be a signing at this same sports store, and he canceled that. The next quote he told KOAA News was, as much as I hate to admit this, perhaps there are more Brandon Marshall and Colin Kaepernick supporters out there than I had realized.
Oops, told you.
Yeah.
And so still in his defiance, two more things. He said, I didn't give in to big Nike and big dollars. I didn't give in. I did it my way.
I mean, whatever. Like
he did it his way.
I guess that makes you feel
good. Lastly, his stance with the military, because of course Colin Kaepernick and Brandon Marshall and every other NFL player that spoke out about this was disrespecting the military. He went on to say, that part of the military respect that's in me just cannot be sacrificed or compromised, as I believe Brandon Marshall and Colin Kaepernick both did. I don't like losing a business over it, but I'd rather be able to live with myself.
So, first of all, it's got to be corrected every time. Their protests had nothing to do with the military. In fact, they went out of their way, Kaepernick did, to confer with service members and say, what's the most respectful way to do a protest during the national anthem? And got the advice from people in the military that taking a knee would be the most respectful way of doing it. And his protest is about the police. Hey, look, and if you're bothered by that, that's okay. Why don't you just admit what the protest is about and say, hey, I love cops and I respect them and I think they always do the right thing. And if they shot an unarmed black guy, he had it coming. Okay, or whatever, or say, hey, you know, it's not disproportionate, but it is. Deny the reality, whatever. But why are you pretending that it's about the military when it isn't about the military? It's a weird lie that you've convinced yourself of and now cost your business over. So just be honest about it on this. But this story is actually worse for conservatives than you realize. Colorado Springs is an area considered to be deeply conservative. This is not Boulder, Colorado. Colorado is a very disparate state where they have very liberal parts and very conservative parts. Colorado Springs is filled with evangelicals and is a center for evangelical leadership, mega churches, etc. If you can't run a store based on conservative customers in Colorado Springs, you can't run it anywhere, okay? So there's so many ironies in the story. Totally. But I do love his admission. He's like, well, I guess I was wrong. There were more progressives than there are us. And that's true, and that's why Nike's sales went up so dramatically after they did the Colin Kaepernick ad. Because, and this is what drives conservatives crazy, we have won the culture wars. The younger generation is totally and overwhelmingly progressive. So you might lose a couple of 65-year-olds in Colorado Springs, and they might burn their Nikes.
They're monarchs, like you know those like bulky white ones. You know, it's like, come on, you're not spending any money.
Yeah, but young people who buy sneakers, they're progressive. Sad day for you. So, and I also enjoy the irony of him doing the 50% off initially when he's mad. He's like, okay, I don't want to sell Nike anymore, so 50% off. So more people came and bought Nike.
It's just like, this is like, some of you guys are weird out there, just weird. Like, this is like when people were smashing their Keurigs. It's just like some of you guys out there are just weird. You know, I think what's fascinating about this is that traditionally, like in the history of our country, racism has paid. You know what I mean? And it's hard for me to say that someone who is taking a stand against someone protesting racism is not racist. Like I mean, like you're dipping in the racism pool. Like, you know, I don't know what, it's all over you, whether it's you or not. It's all over you. And it occasionally, you know, we are just like you mentioned. Like we're in this space now. We're like it's like slowly creeping up where people have the power.
I'm beginning to
fight
get
back against that.
I don't know, man. You know, I like to not doubt things, but you know, there's a degree to which this guy maybe just wanted to go out of business. He mentioned at one point to also the local news, he goes, I'm retiring in a year, so I figure I have enough set aside and I'm ready to go ahead and retire. He wanted to leave.
You don't think he would have rather sold it?
And no, he believes all the madness he was talking, but also he's like, you know, I just want to go out of business. I'm just gonna leave it here now, and he wants to have this stand because he's posting a lot. I just saw today on his Facebook, he also went and mentioned, hey, my mom was just called a whore over the phone, and I can't believe how people are so angry, and why you keep talking?
Yeah, no, I know why.
He wants sympathy, he wants people to say, hey, I'm right behind you, Steven. He wants this publicity as he walks off into the sunset.
And they could have shown him that by buying his stuff.
Yeah, he's tired, he just wants to leave, and he wants to get it over with.
No, you see, both of you make great points. So I'm with you, Brooke, that if selling it would have been a much better option. Like, and if it was profitable, he could have sold it. But he couldn't because it isn't profitable. On the other hand, Jayar, you make a great point, and I think that what he really wanted, now that you got me to think about it, is he wanted to be a victim. You know, and conservatives love being victims, and in his mind, he wanted to be a hero, right? Like, I have been beleaguered by the liberals. I try to own them, but then they own me. So, now I need a safe space. And so all conservatives out there understand that I fought for my principles, that cops should be able to shoot unarmed black men. I mean, they might not have weapons, but they're black. So now look, a part of me gets that he did a principled stand and et cetera, right? And appreciates that. But to Brooke's point, about what?
Exactly.
Right? So if you're gonna do a principled stand that might bankrupt you, you should at least look into it a little bit, do some research. And so if he came out and said, listen, I listened to Brandon Marshall and I looked at all the figures, and it turns out black people and white people, you know, for example, smoke the same amount of marijuana, but get arrested at the same rate. See, there is no real problem. There is no disparate treatment. I'd say, oh, that's interesting, right? But that isn't true. Right. Black people and white people do smoke the same amount of marijuana, but black people get arrested at 3.5 times the rate. Unarmed people get shot more often if they're black rather than white. African Americans get shot by cops more under any and all circumstances. In almost every category that is documented, African Americans get shot at a greater rate by cops than whites do. So those are the facts, but he didn't look into the facts. He had this cultural need to make a stand and say, I'm with the cops, right or wrong. Right. And so that's a bizarre principled stand to take. Taking a principled stand on something that is wrong.
Yeah, it's just, it negates your principles. Lastly, another sad part about this, he's vowing to help his 9 employees find new work. So you've run 9 folks out of a job because of your principled stance based on nothing. And that's where in the community does that help? This small business helping folks out. Now 9 folks are out of a job. I mean, I'm sure they can get another job in another sports store, whatever. But on the surface of it, this principle is getting other people out of work while you go off and retire with your money. So
yeah.
But even that, like that's the end of it. Someone who has this thought process and who's willing to go to this like length to express this feeling in support of racism, essentially, which is what it like. You dig it all up, what it comes down to. I fear for what his employees looked like and the people who didn't get the job over the years and the people who did and how they were treated. I don't know. There's so much more than just this part when you think of situations like this.
It's why when you identify someone as being bigoted, they do everything in their life is based off of what they see. It's why we were talking about Schultz the other day. I don't see color. Hey, he sees color, and maybe he doesn't realize it, but yes, he does. And then he makes decisions based off of that.
Yeah,
everything he does.
Last two things here. Let's also note that the conservatives who love the free market, gotcha. So this is the free market, and so Charlie Kirk, if you're living like a capitalist every day, I guess you got to be celebrating this news. The market has decided. Your side is lost and our side is won. Sad day for you. And the final irony is, the thing that he rebelled against, this conservative guy, Stephen Martin, was Nike's ad campaign. You know what the slogan was? Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. How is that for ironic? As he bankrupts his business and to protest that slogan, which is what he thinks he's doing.
The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.